A gentle reminder, everyone. The Trade Desk has recently published a report titled Elevating Your Marketing Strategy with AI, accessible through the QR code behind me. Please scan to download. Thank you. Now it's time for the thought leadership panel on the topic winning in the cookieless world with programmatic advertising. Our final and thought-provoking panel of the day will address the challenges and strategies in post-cookieless world. The session will be moderated by Sunil Chawla, co-founder at Social Beat. Please welcome him on stage. Sunil Chawla, everybody. Please join me in giving a warm round of applause for the panelists. Neelima Burra, Chief Strategy, Transformation and Marketing Officer at Luminous Power Technologies. Round of applause for Neelima, please. Now I invite Karan Grover, Lead Director of Inventory Development at the Trade Desk. Please welcome Tathagat Jena, Head of Marketing, DTC and Online Businesses, Head India and APAC at HMD Global, home of Nokia phones. Please invite Rajiv Dubey, Senior General Manager and Head of Media at Dabur. The floor is yours.
All right, we are at the fourth session. Warm welcome to the panelists. And I'm sure we've had a lot of learnings in the previous 3 sessions, and we try and make this as useful for the audience as well over the next 20 odd minutes. Before we get started, a quick round of introductions. Start with Neelima here. She's the Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer at Luminous. It's a powerhouse in the inverter and solar space. If you please feel free to add, welcome Neelima. We have Rajiv from the Trade Desk. They are the title sponsors. We look forward to some insights there. We have Tathagat from the house of Nokia, HMD, and I just heard they are launching a mobile phone. If that's a top secret, very nice. And finally, we have Mr. Rajiv. Great sense of humor. I was catching up with him outside, and all of 30 years, he really has a very sharp mind as well. So look forward to some insights from you, Rajiv. And I'm Sunil here from Social Beat. We are a digital growth partner for brands. So really nice to be part of this session. I think the agenda is to discuss the cookieless world and how brands are preparing for it, as well as the programmatic platforms and partners are preparing for it. Let me start off by Neelima asking you today, how much do you use programmatic? And especially, measurement has become a big problem. So how are you solving for measurement as well? Be great to hear.
So programmatic initially with third party we used to use a lot because that was the only way probably that time to track your consumers, their behavior, their preferences. But because over the period of time, a lot of things have changed. The privacy concerns of consumers have also changed. There is policies which have come in which needs to also protect many of those. Last couple of years, what we have done is increased more and more of first-party data and data lake around it. Because we have got huge source of inputs coming in because of warranty which goes with all the product. And of course, with warranty, there are consents which enables you to look at the preferences and challenges. To resolve the challenges, you need some information there. And the websites, the e-commerce which has come in, wherein it's a difficult category, it's industrial, people want to know more, how do you use it, what are the ways they can calculate their load, and which are the kind of products which will suit. So there's a lot of things which happens there. So we have also introduced our own generative AI tool there, which enables them to interact with the tool and get to know, calculate your own load by putting data on how many rooms, how many lights, how many ACs. So what's the kind of product which can come in there. So a couple of these 2 things which we are doing is helping us to manage it a little better.
Very interesting, Neelima. You spoke about the data lake. I'll come back to you as well. Maybe Rajiv, how are you using first-party data and data lakes, CDPs?
So, first of all, not very important. But cookie deprecation, but that's the first thing which basically made us get into this. So we started this journey about 2 years back. By that time, people had already built their stacks. But we were very quick to catch up with the rest of the world. And one is that we have our own, we have multiple touch points through which we get this data. One is that we have our own B2C. It's not very big, but it gives you sufficient and substantial information. Second is that through brand activations, we reach out to about 50 million people in a year through one-to-one contact, through various events and various activations. That's another huge set of information. So now what happens is that putting all this information together and then marrying with the data which you have along with the data of the third-party database in front of you with then you kind of make different cohorts and start targeting those. But how does it help us in overall business? Because for us the business, which is online business, is just about 10%.
Right.
But very significant and growing very, very fast. And one challenge for us remains that how do you recruit new consumers for your business? Because lots of categories you see that lapses is very, very high. And you don't want people to lapse out of your category and you want to buy somebody else's product. And for us, what happens is that all other companies also in a similar kind of a learning curve. So how do we beat them and how do we stay ahead of the curve? Especially brand like Chyawanprash. I mean, for us, our research into Chyawanprash has been through our parents or grandparents. And for new Gen Z or Gen Alpha, I would say that it's very hard to convince them how to get to them. So using this information, these cohorts, and talking to these new consumers always has been a challenge, and we using data to reach out to the new consumers and not lose out in the categories where we are leaders. And the categories where we have been the legacy brands, we have been leaders also and not lost shares. And year on year, if you look at the numbers, we have been gaining shares in these categories.
Now you mentioned Dabur Honey and Real Juice, right? So out of the 50 million data pool which you have, like what percentage of your customers are you touching digitally? Have you tracked that? Because you'll have a much larger audience actually offline.
So I mean, again, the moment you start marrying the lookalikes, then you find, so the entire pool does not go to one category. You find out very few. But after you have done data cleaning and everything, you realize that those cohorts, they are very similar. Lots of categories for us are very similar to each other. Like for example, a category which is using, say, toothpaste cohorts is very similar to some other categories also. So, I mean, initially we thought they will be very, very hard, but it's not so hard.
Understood.
But we have to learn the science and basically go about it and not lose consumers. That's the
No, definitely. I think we'll come to Rajiv shortly on how technically we can use some of the new tools. But before that, Tathagat, how have you been using Programmatic? And, with the cookieless world, are you all preparing for it, especially with the launch of the new phone? What challenges are you facing in that journey?
Well, not for the immediate new launch per se, because this, I think it's been around for quite some time. And the way I see it is that it is still for us a lot of DV360, which kind of decides our media planning. The investment towards, let's say, D2C is, for me, it was always more about preparing for this eventuality rather than the absolute, business matrix. Because we just saw that, there were a lot of, because it's a legacy and, iconic brand. There were a lot many, organic visitors. That they were always there. So it was all about tapping that into, and that's a sizable chunk in itself. So, and we always got anything that we did to them in terms of our CRM or etc. We got good response. So, but it is preparing for cookieless, like you said, even for smaller organizations. If you really want to be really true to first party data and get into behavioral, demographic, transactional, etc. It requires very significant infra and investments. It's not really that easy. So the way we have been having discussions with our agencies, etc., that eventually when it happens, our ROI will suffer. How will we measure? Every kind of campaign measurement matrix may go for a toss.
Yeah.
So what kind of data aggregation can you give us? What kind of contextual advertising that we can do? These are the scenarios that's always been there, but till the time, it actually happens, that's when people will react, but till then you can only prepare your infra and your systems and setups.
So it's like training for the tough times ahead.
Yes,
for measurement.
absolutely.
No, absolutely. So I think, thanks Tathagat. I think coming to Rajiv, obviously you all are at the forefront of programmatic and in the cookieless world, it is going to be a little different. So good to understand what you all are doing to prepare for that. And I think some of the solutions which you all are also coming up with, like unified ID, for example, be great to explain it because not many of us actually understand it, So
Sure. So I think first things first, I feel any strategy which will revolve around a persistent or a durable identifier will be the most successful, right? Because Indian consumer is across multi-channel. We are across in-app, we are across CTV, we consume news on web, right? So there are different identifiers. How do you tie and marry each channel, right, is the question. Which brings me to a couple of options which are there on the table for advertisers to leverage. One, of course, is contextual targeting, which has been there since ages, less reliant, less precise, but at the same time, it doesn't track a user, right? Come on to the privacy sandbox, one of the initiatives from Google. They speak about Google Topics, right? It's in my head a kind of a replica to contextual advertising because again, it is all about users' browsing history.
Could you maybe break us, what is unified ID, you could explain it
yes,
to us,
so
would be great.
Which brings me to the third option which is there with advertisers is, like I mentioned, it has to be a more durable, more persistent in nature, right? And proud to say that, as Trade Desk, we have come up with this solution, which is called Unified ID, which is based on a more durable identifier, which is either an email or a phone number. So essentially what it does is that we convert an email or a phone into an encrypted and hashed format, right? And it then becomes a common currency across all channels, be it your CTV, in-app, web, right? Wherever the user has consented and given their first-party data. And hence, advertisers are able to run targeted campaigns across omni-channel, right? So that's essentially what UID does.
Is this more like privacy friendly for consumers in general?
Of course, because so one of the things within UID is that it's very privacy conscious because there is a standard which all participants need to follow. And by participants, I mean across advertisers and publishers, which essentially is nothing but the user consent lies with them, right? And the user consent to advertise or market their products lies with them. And it's not that we are getting any PI from any publisher or any advertiser. It's just a hashed and an encrypted format. So that's definitely being taken care of. Yeah.
I think in India, compared to the West, where there is already regulation in the EU, especially around data, I think in India it's not been really prominent, at least till now, right? I think the government might come up with some guidelines around privacy, but it's been relatively more flexible.
Yeah, but I think, the regulations in West and EU are actually more stronger than us. But you won't believe, I was speaking to Neelima about this proposition in US, which is our stronghold market. All major CTV broadcasters have adopted UID, and all top CPG folks have adopted UID. So that's the kind of scale we are operating at in US.
When is this cookie deprecation expected? I think it's been postponed. Any idea, Neelima? Karan?
Yeah. There has been discussions on it. There is, it's sooner than later, but I think when is it expected is not important. What's important is what are we preparing ourselves as organizations. I think since long, DPDP has been there, a lot of conversations, GDPR was always there, there was a lot of conversation. Google Chrome, and then moving away from cookie. I mean, these conversations were there, but as an organization, it has still taken a lot of time to prepare yourself and get more towards first-party data, understand what you can do with it, and how you can actually use. I was just talking to Rajiv on this, that I was with HP and we used to do a lot of work with Singapore because India didn't have capabilities to do a lot of those, which is now available in India to do it.
So how, can you maybe, I think you mentioned you've invested in the data pool, even at Luminous. So how has that journey been? Was it an easy decision in the organization?
It's complicated because the biggest challenge in organizations is data is not at one place. Every function is generating data, and how do you get it to look at in the same way? So the first step was collecting that. That took us a lot of time. But having said that, now we have a team which is putting it together. But more importantly is the newer products which is going into the market, so that the manual intervention is not required. So new products which is going is connected, and that actually brings the data at one place. We also recently launched an app called ConnectX. So it's a very new app, 5,000 homes where there are solar, and those all solar, you can see the performance on that app. How much of energy is generated, how much have you consumed, and if it is connected to grid, which government is talking about, then how much you can give back to the grid so that someone else can use it. So this kind of things is happening for the first time, where you're now finding it relevant to collect and make it more useful, and then connecting the data with APIs which we are developing, so that there is interfaces and you can discuss more on that. Omnichannel is another big initiative which we did, because again, retail and e-commerce and modern trade, they don't talk to each other. So how do you connect this data again? Because consumer experience and preference is all sitting there. So this generative AI tool which I am talking about, one unified problem was people were reliant on retailers to explain the usage of the product. Now, a lot of time there is upsell which is happening which may not be required, or it has been sold differently which is not fitting in, which becomes a service problem later on. So with this tool, at least now they are able to identify what they want to do on their own.
So you have unified the data across these three.
But I learned something with Rajiv today. I'm going to explore more on that to get it better.
How long did it take you, Neelima, to do that journey of unification?
I know for last 2 to 3 years, we are trying to collate all data to bring it under one. But yes, we are not perfect yet. And that's the challenge for the organizations, and investments which needs to go. I had to set up complete data science team to actually further look at the data. Data is there, but what are we doing with it further?
Right. No, Rajiv ji, aap kya kar rahe ho? How are you setting up this unified data across? You have even more customers.
That's what I mean, like you said that, what are you doing with the data? So I think first instance when we had so much of data, one thought that what are you going to do with it? We thought just going to do that. Unless in the data lake, we found to use it. But we found a lot of good use. Because once you started cleaning the data, you started varying the data the pools. They started pimping and then giving us a lot of rates for business generation. So that's important. That's how we use the data. And again, I mean, it's a very important business, and we are not able to address. Like for example, this country's large population is become TV dark. There are people who have no access to TV, they're not watching it. Gradually what will happen is that you will find lesser and lesser people who are available on the mass media. So how do you address that? And so this information is very useful when you look at anybody who's like 20 years in Indian copy, those people would have watched TV ever in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And so that really scares me, because how do we recruit these people to come and find that product? And like my business, like other businesses that you sell maybe once to one person. For me, businesses that you sell the same product to the same person again and again. It's a repeat of business.
Sure.
So you have to keep them interested, keep selling them new ideas, and how to do that. Unless something you know about.
Yeah. So where is this programmatic versus like tools like WhatsApp? How are you splitting your focus on platforms like this, given the potential?
Programmatic, not so much WhatsApp based as yet, but in the sense that a lot of lookalikes, like I said, we create a lot of lookalikes, and we launch some products which are only meant for digital, only meant for like you would have heard of Dabur baby diapers, right?
Yeah.
We are our audience. The audience would know. It's a 40 crore brand. We just built out of digital business. This mustard oil which we sell only it's only on basis.
I've seen the ads.
So that you would have seen it in digital world.
Yeah.
So we're probably targeted for that. Similarly, there's Apple side of it. There are a host of other uses which are available only on and that is only made possible because we are using data.
Very interesting. I think with a lot of D2C brands coming up as well, they are going after smaller niches of audiences and capturing market share. So it's very interesting that a legacy brand, a group like Dabur is, innovating and.
So like we were talking, how are you losing business to the smaller new entrants? Yes and no both. So what happens is that if somebody comes at one particular product in our category, like for example, in juices, somebody comes with a specialty juice and says that okay, I'll target only say coconut water. Yes, that becomes a challenge. Studio, for example. So we sell 200 ml Nariyal Pani for 55. He says take the liter for 99. So how do you compare that? So these are the challenges on similarly for honey consumption. We say honey used to sell for like some 250 rupees a kg. Somebody comes and says that I'll give you honey for one. So how do you deal with that challenge? So easiest thing to do is to reduce prices and start giving discount, but no. We have to make profit. We have and keep the company without losing. These are the challenges, and we deal with it by packing, by launching say different brands, different products in those categories, so that we don't.
No, I think all the D2C brands are now trying to emulate like a Dabur, going omni-channel and becoming profitable. Otherwise, they're all burning money earlier. So
one more thing, this is not online and offline. So online business is 10%. Offline, we are present in 80 lakh outlets. And how many companies have 80 lakh outlets in this country? There are, I think, found these two guys. One is Reverse, second is PNG, similar to us. And these three guys have 80 lakh, 8 million plus distribution. So we can't beat that. Launch any category brand or any niche they will come. So one is that those guys will take care of some of our business. But this lower end of the funnel people will target them.
right. No, thanks, Rajiv. Tathagat, coming to you, you're launching the mobile phone recently, right? So in terms of using programmatic, like what are your plans over there? And I think with the cookieless world, it might change in the future, right? So, but right now, how are you planning for it?
Well, I'll give you while the, let's say, middle and lower funnel advertising, it still continues to follow the usual way right now. We're still conscious of the ROI.
A little closer, maybe. I think.
There are a couple of things that we also consciously do. That, for example, even your social media strategies that you do. That how much. One thing is that just go for engagements, but simply how do you really customize your approach, that whether it is contests, quizzes, polls, infographics, etc. All that you do is to really generate, because unlike let's say frequent purchase LTV category like an FMCG, here typically we know that this is a consumer which either buys you once in a couple of years, and there are consumers every day in the market. So even while we do our, let's say, particular period, let's say in a 4-week period, we do advertising, we don't really feel the need to go too much into the browser history, because we have a term like an in-market audience.
Yeah.
So that entire purchase consideration cycle from trying to look at a phone in either in gadget sites or competition sites to anywhere, etc. It kind of eventually ends in a 3 to 4 week cycle. So we anyway go after that audience in that particular week or that particular month. So that doesn't change. But we have a slow, long haul, long-term objective to handle, because we cannot be satisfied with anybody who is only on our D2C.
Right.
How to grow the D2C franchisee beyond your business volumes is social media also does a lot of that to really be active audience who is engaging with you, and then sharing meaningful data with you, which then you can use responsibly.
No, thanks, Tathagat, talking a little bit about the present, how you're preparing for the launch. I think, Rajiv, it'll be good to just maybe fast forward into the future a little bit over the next 1.5 years.
You took my name wrong, I think.
Oh, sorry.
I'm
Karan.
Karan, yeah. So, sorry, Karan. So, I think it'll be good to fast forward over the next 1.5 years and really understand, in terms of the future for the cookieless world, where would we be in 2 years from now, Karan?
Future of cookieless. I think as leading ad tech providers, we are already prepared for it. Like I said in my previous answer, that ever since Google announced it, a lot of publishers and advertisers are kind of scrambling to gather first-party data, because first-party data has now become so precious, because if cookies aren't there for targeting, then there has to be some durable identifier, like I said. So I think the ecosystem is preparing well. The good part is there are opportunities and options available for the market to adopt, right? It's just a matter of time, and I think, and we were discussing, Neelima and me, any which ways, I think India is predominantly a mobile-heavy market, right? So, like, cookies really don't matter. So, yeah.
So I think you see organizations scrambling in the future because they're not prepared. Is that
yeah,
what
I
you
mean,
see?
I think, and like all of us are at the mercy of walled gardens. They do what they do at whatever time they choose to. And we all know that it has been delaying for a good 2 to 3 years. And I think you asked this question, when is this happening? I think it's the latest update, which everyone knows, is Q1 2025, but like you never know.
Right.
So, yeah.
If I just add a status, ever since we first heard this term, in a country of 1.4 billion, the smartphone installed base was somewhere around probably 350 to 400 million when we started this discussion. Right now, that figure sits around close to 800 million. It possibly cannot. There's not much headroom. You can't have everybody in the country have smartphones. So it has already reached 800 million.
And as Karan is saying, I think the biggest problem is there is a lot of lack of awareness, and that is creating a lot of anxiousness and worry. But once you understand it, there are many alternatives and tools already available in last 2 to 3 years.
No, perfect. No, I think we are nearly out of time. I think I'll take 30 seconds for maybe 1 or 2 words of what you love in marketing. We have a lot of marketers in the house. So what are you loving about the marketing landscape today? Maybe just a couple of words from each of us before we wind up.
What you love in marketing? I think there's a lot of things. Marketing is always exciting because the environment, the macro environment and consumers both keeps changing, and you have to always keep catching up to them. So that's the exciting part of marketing.
Karan?
I'm actually in ad tech. I think the marketers will be able to better answer. But yeah, I mean, really passionate about ad tech, and I feel data is something which excites the ad tech ecosystem as a whole. Because at the end of the day, if you have valuable data, consumer data with you, I think it can do wonders.
Perfect. Tathagat?
I think worked in fairly large organizations and now smaller, nimble organizations. At this point, probably stretching the rupee, longer is probably gives the satisfaction.
Fair enough. We've all been there. Rajiv, finally.
Most important customer need in marketing is consumer. How do I reach that consumer and how do I get them to come to me again and not losing away?
Right.
Consumer is most important. That's what I'm saying.
No, absolutely. No, thank you so much. We're all creating lovely brands here in this room, and I really appreciate the panel for the time. And thank you. Thanks, Karan, specifically. Thank you, Tathagat, Rajiv, and Neelima.
Thank you all the speakers. Can you please stay on the stage? Thank you all the speakers for the great session. I request Rahul Puri, founder and editor at Agency Reporter, to please come on the stage and hand over the token of appreciation to our speakers and moderator.
Thank you very much. Glad to meet you. I couldn't speak to you more.
Huge round of applause, everyone, for the great session.